Hi, I'm V. Welcome to the Top 5 Scary channel. Have you ever heard of phantom islands? I mean, islands that have been seen and then completely disappeared. I sure hadn't. So, after a whole lot of research, I'll be telling you about the top 5 mysterious islands that aren't on any maps. Number 5. Fata Morgana Land. Fata Morgana Land was found in 1907 by J.P. Koch and Age Bertelsen. Age Bertelsen was a painter and J.P. Koch was a captain, explorer, and the uncle of Legouve Koch, who we will get to know in just a second. The two men found the island just off the northeastern coast of Greenland. The sighting of Fata Morgana Island occurred during the 1906 to 1908 Denmark expedition, which was led by Ludvig Mylius Eriksson. Many more actually claimed to have seen the island as well. Fata Morgana was also spotted by Legouve Koch in 1933, 26 years after its initial alleged sighting, while Legouve was flying over the area. It was sighted again from the air by Peter Freuchen in 1935, and again in 1937 by Ivan Pappinen. As I said earlier, Legouve Koch was the nephew of J.P. Legouve was a Danish geographer and Arctic explorer, so it makes sense that his interest was piqued by this mysterious island. After Pappinen's sighting, Legouve began on a seaplane expedition starting in Svalbard in 1938 in the hopes of locating the evasive island. To join Legouve on his journey was Captain Rudolf Meyer and operator Franz Prushoff. The men flew from Copenhagen to Kings Bay in Spitsbergen. They approached Greenland from all directions, but were still unable to spot the island. Now for the humorous naming of the island, Fata Morgana Land. A Fata Morgana is a complex form of superior mirage visible in a narrow band above the horizon. A superior mirage is created by a downward refraction of light as it passes through a temperature gradient, warm to cold. Essentially, it's an optical illusion, where an existing island is able to reflect an image of itself to a different location. It is also extremely common for this anomaly to occur in polar regions because the temperature change is vast enough to create a large refraction. The island that Fata Morgana Land is an alleged Fata Morganas of is called Tobias Island, and it's located about 70 kilometers from the northeastern coast of Greenland. Number 4. Island of Demons. The Isle of Demons, or Demon Island, is said to be located near Newfoundland, Canada, and is generally shown as two islands. The island first appeared on maps in the 16th century, but disappeared in the mid-17th century. It was believed that the island was filled with demons and wild beasts which would attack, torment, and harm any ships that were bold or foolish enough to travel near it. Also, anyone who was even cockier and tried to actually go onto the island itself. In the mid-1500s, a French noblewoman was accused of having an affair with a young man on her ship, and she was left on the island with the man. It was believed that the Isle of Demons was the site of their abandonment, and many people claim to have actually seen the pair on the island. The story has been told by poets, writers, historians, novelists, and musicians over the years, though no one is certain where the pair was actually left. It's now presumed that the pair was left on a different island, but no one knows for sure. The Isle of Demons first appeared on a map created by Johann Ruisch in 1508. It is possible that the island was mistaken for the older island Satanas, which was normally depicted as an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The Isle of Demons continued to appear on maps until Giacomo Gastaldi's 1556 map, where the island is called Isola dei Demoni and is shown as a very large island with flying demons on it. The island has since been declared a phantom island, as it has not been seen or mapped since Gastaldi. But legends of the island remain prominent as people attempt to uncover the truth that lies within the mystery-riddled history. Number 3. Ernest Legouve Reef. Located in the South Pacific, south of French Tuamotu Islands and east of New Zealand, lies Ernest Legouve Reef, and it's, well, a reef that seemingly doesn't exist. In 1902, the reef was first reported by the captain of ship Ernest Legouve. He described it being about 100 meters long, with another reef very close to it. The same year, it was also reported in the Paris Notice to mariners. It is not clear whether the captain of the ship was the Ernest Legouve, or if the ship that located the island was simply named Ernest Legouve. In both 1982 and 1983, the reef was searched for but was unable to be found. The Ernest Legouve Reef, also referred to as the Ernest Legouve Rock, is considered by some as the real-life approximation of the remains of the fictional Lincoln Island. The novel which Lincoln Island originates from places the remnants of the exploded Lincoln Island extremely near the location of the real Ernest Legouve Reef. Lincoln Island was described as an isolated rock, 30 feet long and 15 feet wide, emerging barely 10 feet above the water. The formation was referred to as a reef several times after the fictional story's explosion of Lincoln Island. The similarities between the fictional island and the mysterious Ernest Legouve Reef has definitely offered a lot of space for interesting theories to arise. Some believe that the fictional reef written is actually the explanation for the Ernest Legouve Island. The uncertainty surrounding whether or not this reef exists has definitely subsided. Most people are now sure that it doesn't exist, but the previous sightings forced those with curious minds to take a second look. Number 2, Mount Penglai. Have you ever wished to live forever? Well, if you feel like going on a long journey, you may be lucky enough to find a place where your wish could come true. Mount Penglai is a mythical island that appears in both Chinese and Japanese mythology. However, it is referred to with a different name in Japanese mythology. In a legend originating in the state of Qi from the pre-Qin period, immortals live in Penglai Palace, which is located on the top of Mount Penglai. The mountain is often said to be the base for the 8 immortals and the illusionist Anki Shen. The 8 immortals are a legendary group. Each immortal's power can be transferred to a vessel, and they can grant life or destroy evil. Most of them are said to be born in the Tang or Song dynasty, so within the 600s to the 1200s. Everything on Mount Penglai appears to be white, while its palaces are made from gold and silver, and jewels grow on trees. The winters aren't harsh and grueling because they don't exist there. The food is abundant and life is without agony. There are fruits on the island that can heal any ailment, grant eternal youth, and even resurrect the dead. Qin Shi Huang, in search of the elixir of life, tried many times to locate the mythical Mount Penglai, but he never succeeded. Legends say that one servant had been sent to find the island, found Japan instead, and named Mount Fuji as Penglai. Small mistake on his part, I guess. I just couldn't stop imagining him returning to everyone and leading this long expedition to what he thinks is Mount Penglai, and then upon arrival, everyone's just like, dude, that's literally Mount Fuji. Many theories as to the actual location of the mountain have been recorded, including Japan, Namhae, Jeju-do, south of the Korean peninsula, and Taiwan. A place called Penglai does exist in Shandong, but its connection is claimed to be the site of departure from the island, opposed to the island itself. Chung Hwan, a Joseon period geographer, associated Mount Penglai with Korea's Mount Kumgang. While the island has no reports of ever being located, many believe that it is true, and that if you are in times of extreme crisis and need honest help with no bad intentions, you may just be lucky enough to find the island yourself. Number 1, Atlantis. I don't think anyone could do a mysterious island video and not include Atlantis. As well known as it is, there are actually a lot of little known facts behind the origin of the legend of Atlantis. I mean, just to start, the legend of Atlantis was made by Plato, the Greek philosopher. The story was supposed to be an allegory to comment on the hubris of nations. In the story, Atlantis is a naval empire that ruled over all western parts of the known world. After an unsuccessful attempt to conquer ancient Athens, Atlantis fell out of favor with the deities and was submerged into the Atlantic Ocean. In ancient Athens, though, most people viewed the story as fictional or myth, but some people actually believed it. Though Plato's work was not to be taken literally, many writers in the Renaissance era wrote stories of Atlantis, which were, by some, taken literally. In the 1800s, scholars misinterpreted Plato's narrative as a historical tradition. They also thought that Plato was telling a historically accurate story, and hence the legend of the lost city, Atlantis, was popularized. In the 1st century, Jewish philosopher Philo wrote of the destruction of Atlantis in his On the Eternity of the World. world, allegedly citing another philosopher, Philo wrote, and the island of Atlantis, which was greater than Africa and Asia, as Plato says in the Timaeus, in one day and night was overwhelmed beneath the sea in consequence of an extraordinary earthquake and inundation, and suddenly disappeared, becoming sea, not indeed navigable, but full of gulfs and gulfs and eddies. Many early Christian writers also wrote of Atlantis, but they had differing opinions as to whether the story was true or not. Some believed that the island was real and was the size of Libya or Asia. Others believed that it was an untrustworthy myth made by pagans. Some of those who did believe it existed actually blamed its destruction on the pagans. The confusion of whether the island was real or not continued for a very long time. Cartographers in the 1600s would often include Atlantis on maps. Though the position would often change, it was still on the maps. Atlantis has definitely been the most famous lost island, seeing as the debate surrounding it has been going on for thousands of years. No one is quite sure whether it exists or not. I mean, some will say no, it definitely does not exist. But to them, I say, shush, for you have not seen it with your own eyes. That brings us to the end of our list. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the top 5 mysterious islands that aren't on any map. And most importantly, I hope you learned something, because knowledge is power. I've had a couple of intro and outro suggestions in my Instagram DMs and in the comments, and I think I'm gonna start trying some out. So if you have a tagline you'd like me to say, let me know. I like cute things that rhyme, and of course it should be on theme. Today, our outro's line comes from my good friend. Thanks for watching, but sadly, VB out now.